All right, so let's dive right in. Today, we're going to be tackling something that I think a lot of us have wondered about, psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you're thinking about trying it out, or maybe you're just curious about how it all works.
Yeah,
But you want to get to the heart of what really matters.
absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to do today.
Okay.
We're going way beyond just does therapy work? Because, spoiler alert, it does. We're going to be looking at this really fascinating excerpt from a psychology textbook called Choosing Your Psychotherapist.
Okay.
And what makes this source so interesting is that it's really rooted in hard data. It unpacks this landmark study that kind of shook up the whole world of therapy research.
Okay, so set the stage for us. What study were we talking about?
This was a massive, massive undertaking. Back in 1977, by these researchers, Smith and Glass,
Okay.
they conducted what's called a meta-analysis, which is, to put it simply, like taking the results of hundreds of smaller studies and combining them to create this giant, comprehensive picture.
So instead of looking at one study on, say, anxiety treatment, they looked at hundreds of studies on all different kinds of therapy.
Exactly. We're talking 375 studies, over 25,000 participants. This wasn't just some casual, observation. And what they found was truly groundbreaking. People in therapy do better generally than 75% of those who don't.
Right.
Think of it like test scores. If everyone took a test on life improvement, the therapy group would be scoring consistently in the top 25th percentile.
Wow, that's a pretty compelling argument for therapy's effectiveness.
Yeah, it is. But here's where things get really interesting. Smith and Glass didn't just want to prove that therapy worked generally. They wanted to see if one type was like the reigning champion,
Yeah.
So they compared all these different methods, right? Psychoanalysis, behavioral therapy, you name it. And they were expecting, I think, to find a clear winner.
Right.
But what they discovered was that there wasn't one.
Wait, so all those different approaches from like digging into your childhood to focusing on changing behaviors right now in the present, they all worked about the same.
Yeah, that's what the data showed. Now, to be fair, they did group the therapies into some broader categories, what they called superclasses, like behavioral therapies versus more insight-oriented ones. But even then, both superclasses were equally effective.
So if I'm hearing you right, this research suggests that finding the perfect type of therapy might not be the most important thing.
That's one of the huge takeaways, and it actually sparked a revolution in how therapy is practiced.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. If the specific method isn't like the deciding factor, what does make therapy work?
Yeah.
This study pointed towards something a lot more nuanced, like the individual, their needs, and their relationship with the therapist.
Okay.
This led to the rise of what's called eclectic therapy, which is now the most common approach.
Okay. So eclectic therapy. Break that down for me. What does that actually look like?
So imagine a therapist with a toolbox full of all these different techniques,
Okay.
all drawn from these various schools of thought, right?
Yeah.
They don't just stick to one method rigidly. They pick and choose what they think will work best for you, like creating a custom treatment plan.
So instead of searching for the perfect therapy style, it's more about finding a therapist who's skilled at tailoring the approach to your needs.
Exactly. It's kind of like, almost like if finding the right therapist was like finding a good friend. Like, what qualities would you look for in a friend?
Yeah.
Someone who listens to you, understands you, adapts to your personality. The research suggests that the therapist's personality might actually matter more than their chosen method.
Now that is surprising. I'm starting to see why this study was such a game changer. It really shifts the focus from this competition between therapies to something much more personal and individual.
Right, exactly. And it opens up this whole new world of questions about what really drives positive change in therapy. But we'll get to those in a bit.
Okay, I'm getting this therapist as a friend analogy, but honestly, it still feels a little daunting. How do you actually go about finding someone who's a good fit for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's no magic formula. But I think armed with this knowledge about eclectic therapy, you're already in a much stronger position than someone just going in blind.
So instead of fixating on finding a specific type of therapy, what should we be prioritizing?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's really thinking about your own needs and preferences. What are you hoping to achieve through therapy? What kind of approach do you think you'd be most comfortable with? Some people really thrive in a structured, goal-oriented setting, while others might need something more exploratory, more insight-driven.
It's kind of like choosing a workout routine, right?
Yeah.
Some people are all about that high-intensity interval training, while others need the calmness of yoga or Pilates. It's got to resonate with you.
Exactly. And just like with fitness, you might have to try a few different things before you find the perfect fit. Don't be afraid to ask potential therapists about their approach, how they tailor it to each individual. Remember, this whole idea of eclectic therapy is about flexibility and personalization.
Okay, so self-awareness is key. What else should we be considering in this, like, therapist quest?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The therapeutic relationship itself is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
Research shows that the quality of the bond between the therapist and the client is one of the biggest predictors of success.
Interesting.
You need to feel safe, understood, and respected.
So it's not just about finding someone with the right, letters after their name. It's about finding someone you genuinely connect with on a human level.
Absolutely. Like this connection, this therapeutic alliance, it creates this environment of trust, open communication, which are so essential for, really diving deep into the work. It's about feeling comfortable sharing even those difficult thoughts and feelings.
And I imagine this is where the beauty of that eclectic approach really shines.
Hmm.
Like, the therapist isn't limited by a single method. They can pull from different techniques to create a truly personalized experience.
Precisely. Let's say you're struggling with anxiety, right? An eclectic therapist might combine mindfulness techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy with a deeper exploration of underlying emotional patterns from a psychodynamic perspective. They're not limited.
It's like having a whole toolbox full of tools, and a therapist can pick and choose the best one for the job, or even combine several for a more, comprehensive approach.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, this research doesn't suggest that all therapists who call themselves eclectic are automatically a good fit.
Right.
It's still crucial to do your research, ask questions, and ultimately trust your gut feeling.
Right. So it's this fascinating interplay of factors. Understanding ourselves, understanding the therapeutic process, and then finding a therapist who feels right. Andy has the skills and experience to help us with our specific concerns.
Exactly. And while that groundbreaking study we discussed gave us this solid foundation, the field of therapy is constantly evolving.
Right.
New approaches are being developed, existing ones are being refined. So it's an exciting time to be exploring mental health care.
It really is. It's empowering to know that we have more options than ever before. But I have to admit, with so many choices, it's also easy to feel overwhelmed. How can we cut through the noise and feel confident in making decisions about our own mental health journey?
That's a fantastic question, and honestly, it deserves a deep dive all its own. But I'll leave you with this thought. Imagine a future where mental health care is even more personalized and effective, where research continues to uncover the specific factors that contribute to healing and well-being.
As we're talking about all of this, one thing that really stood out to me was that idea we touched on earlier about the power of our own beliefs and expectations in therapy.
Yeah.
It's almost like our mindset can impact the outcome.
Well, what's so fascinating is that this isn't just some feel-good concept. It's actually backed by a ton of research.
Right.
Study after study has shown that people who go into therapy with this positive attitude and a genuine belief that it can help them, they're more likely to see positive results.
So it's not just about finding the right therapist or even the right type of therapy. It's about bringing the right mindset to the table as well.
Exactly. It's like planting a seed. If you plant it in fertile soil and you give it sunlight and water, it's more likely to thrive, right?
Right.
Approaching therapy with an open mind, a willingness to do the work, and a belief in its potential that creates the best possible environment for growth and healing.
I love that analogy.
Oh, yeah.
It really drives home the point that we're active participants in this journey, not just passive recipients of treatment.
Yeah, and that's so empowering because it means that we have more agency than we might realize, Our beliefs, our attitudes, our willingness to engage, they all play a role.
But what about those times when we're feeling lost or hopeless? What if we're struggling to believe that therapy can actually help? It's easy to talk about a positive mindset, but it's not always easy to actually feel that way.
That's so true. And it's completely understandable to feel hesitant or uncertain, especially if you've never tried therapy before, or maybe you've had negative experiences in the past, Those feelings are valid.
So what can we do in those moments? How do we cultivate that belief, even when it feels difficult?
Well, one thing that can be really helpful is simply educating yourself about therapy and how it works. Understanding the science behind it, the different approaches, the evidence supporting its effectiveness, all of that knowledge can really alleviate some of the fear and uncertainty. It's like shining a light on something that feels scary and unknown.
Right. So knowledge is power in this case.
Mm-hmm.
The more we understand, the more likely we are to approach it with that open mind.
Another powerful tool is connecting with others who have benefited from therapy. Hearing their stories, their struggles, their triumphs, that can really provide a sense of hope and validation. It reminds you that you're not alone in this.
There's something so comforting about knowing that others have walked a similar path and found healing and growth through therapy. It makes it feel more real, more possible.
And remember, it's okay to start small. You don't have to commit to this long-term program right away.
Yeah.
Try a few sessions, see how it feels.
It's like dipping your toes in the water before diving in head first.
Exactly. And if you are feeling apprehensive, just, talk to a therapist about it. They're there to support you and guide you through the process.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like we've gone beyond just scratching the surface of therapy. We've really, learned that it works, that the type of therapy might be less important than finding the right therapist and cultivating the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have a much bigger role to play in our own healing than we might realize.
Absolutely. And if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, it's so exciting to consider how research can continue to shape the future of mental health care, leading to even more personalized and effective treatments. Imagine a world where seeking help for mental health concerns is as common and accepted as seeking help for physical health concerns.
That's a vision worth striving for. And thanks to groundbreaking research like that study that we talked about, we're well on our way.
So as you continue on your own mental health journey, just remember, you're not alone. There are resources available, there are people who care, and there is hope for healing and growth.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has left you feeling informed, empowered, and hopeful. Remember, taking care of your mental health is an act of strength and self-love. Thanks for joining us.